It everywhere. I mean, not just from politicians and the kinds of statements that we're hearing from everyone who's had their life touched by John McCain.
These stories have emerged of torture, rape, and forced labor. And when the centers get too crowded, people are then allegedly sold off like for as little as $400.
I mean, I think his impact goes way beyond just the pure political system. I think people look at him for what he was, which was a patriot and an American. And I think that set of values is something that I think people find in short supply today. And they look at McCain's life and his example and they think, we need more of that.
This is a time when we need heroes, and this is a hero passing from the scene. He viewed America in a certain way, through a certain lens, as a place of ideals and principles, not just a land, not just a piece of property, but the carrier of a human ideal. And this is what he talked about. The reason he was critical of a lot of current foreign policy was, you know, he was a voice for oppressed people around the world. He could have just been a hawk, you know, and a defense hawk as a senator.
Illinois' interpretation, if that person were apprehended in Charleston planning to blow up Shaw Air Force Base, then that person would be given that individual's Miranda rights. Now, how in the world does that fit?
I'm sure they took out assets of Assad's in Syria, which is exactly what we could do with cruise missiles and with Patriot missiles. So that obviously blows a hole a mile wide in our Joint Chiefs of Staff, who prove again, if you don't want to do something, they can find reasons not to do it.
We can succeed, but I think it's going to be very difficult unless we bring the full weight of U.S. air power to bear and to take out Gaddafi's armor.
Wouldn't that necessarily mean working outside of the mandate of the UN Resolution 1973?
Yes. Yes. And if you are really in this to prevent a humanitarian disaster, the only way you can really prevent it is to have Gaddafi not able to inflict that.
I think that at his heart, he's a fighter, and he's a fighter for the principles that he has believed in. I mean, this notion of fighting for a cause larger than yourself can, you know, sound corny and cliched. He lived that.
This year alone, more than 2,100 people have drowned off the coast of Libya.
The United States is the greatest force for good in the world, and we have not an obligation to go out and fight and start wars, but to certainly do everything we can to spread democracy and freedom throughout the world. Anything except for what we have done throughout our history, and that is lend our moral support to people who are literally sacrificing their lives for the fundamental belief that they ought to be able to peacefully disagree with their government without being beaten and killed.
While they were unable to stop the opening trade belt, the sheer number of people that flooded Lower Manhattan that morning and through the rest of the day signaled that Occupy Wall Street was far from over.
Then they're mistaken in their activities because they cause harm to or dislocation or difficulties for the lives of other people. In other words, Americans don't like it when they do things which don't allow us to operate freely. If they come in and deny you the ability of your fellow citizens to be able to ask you a question and have a discourse with them, then they're stifling really the rights of other citizens. So I'm not a fan of them, and I think it's wrong of them to disrupt the lives of our fellow citizens.
I also know that we have a long tradition of standing up for people that are freely and peacefully demonstrating, and they have been peaceful. They were attacked for a while by the police, which didn't succeed. But I think the other aspect of this is that this is a country that's in really bad economic shape, and they need an IMF loan, and they need assistance, and if they turn back to Russia, I think that the consequences that they believe would happen would be rather serious.
The free world is with you. America is with you. I am with you. And the destiny you seek lies in Europe. Ukraine is going to need a long-term military assistance program from the United States, equipment both lethal and non-lethal.
I also know that we have a long tradition of standing up for people that are freely and peacefully demonstrating.
You know, you're going to have to shut up or I'm going to have you arrested. Get out of here, you low-life scum.
What about Libya, though? Because, you know, many Americans are thinking back to that, and we trusted the rebel situation there, and maybe that didn't turn out so well. And aren't Americans weary about getting involved in yet another international conflict?
Well, first of all, Libya did get rid of Muammar Gaddafi, and yes, they are having difficulties. And one of the reasons why they are is we did nothing to help them after they got rid of Muammar Gaddafi. I went into Syria. I know General Idris. He's not a radical, nor, General Idris is a good man. If we had, here's the plan that we need to implement. We need to take out his air capabilities, airfields. We need to then give him a safe zone, and get the message in. Get the weapons in to the people that we know are good people and can use.
I know General Idris and his leadership. It is air power that is given Bashar Assad this tremendous advantage, and it cries out for American leadership. We need American leadership, and that's what I get in every country and every one of these people that I'm
very concerned about the United States status in the world and our commitment to alliances and friends and democracy, and I believe that leading from behind is not the role of the United States in the world. It's up to us, and it's up to presidential leadership as well, to tell the American people why we need to have a base in Okinawa, to tell the American people that we should be a part of what's going on in this Arab Spring around the world. Why it's in our tradition, it's in our history, it's in our values, it's in our Declaration of Independence, it's everything we stand for and believe in.
I think that the way McCain approached his life and approached everything he did was to stand up for America, to stand up, as Mike said, for oppressed people, for the underdog.
And I have never seen anything as disgraceful and outrageous and despicable as the last demonstration that just took place. Dr. Kissinger, I hope on behalf of all of the members of this committee on both sides of the aisle, in fact, from all of my colleagues, I'd like to apologize for allowing such disgraceful behavior towards a man who served his country with the greatest distinction.
And it's a shameful chapter in American history.
Thank you.